in the slichas that we said in the beginning of this year, which seemed so long ago. Am Hashem chizku v'nischazka. Klal Yisrael are being given a lesson of chizik. Am Hashem chizku v'nischazka. Klal Yisrael, be mechazik yourself. V'kiru el elikim b'chozka. Pour out your heart to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with all of your strength. And the Pizmin goes on and says, Rebbeinu Shalom, you're the Shomer Yisrael, Ura, Lama Sishon. Why are you sleeping, Rebbeinu Shalom? Ki lo echbait v'mois hametz. And we go on to try to incur the rachamim of the Heilige Bashefer, especially in times of tzara. Shkoid, the losois, erech hapayim. The Rebbeinu Shalom, who's the shoked at the losois. And at the end of the Pizmin, we say, Yarchei. Is there anything that we can give the Rebbeinu Shalom? And then we tell the Rebbeinu Shalom, don't Rebbeinu Shalom, don't you want the schus lamed, the yashar hakoid? Don't you want the schus of Torah, the schus of the Batei Midrashim? There's a medrash in last week's parsha, Rabbi Yisai. The medrash says in Parshas Vayikra, the medrash talks about Moshe Rabbeinu, after the Klal Yisrael had built the Mishkan, Vanesiim Heviu, Kli Yakar Sifsei Das, Moshe Rabbeinu's nefesh was ogen, he had agmas nefesh. V'omar, hakoyle viu nidvasam lamishkan. Everybody brought to the Mishkan. V'ani lo hevesi, says Moshe Rabbeinu. Wasn't Zeicha, Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't Zeicha to bring to the Mishkan and the Dava. Only the Nesiim was Zeicha. Omar leya kodesh baruch hu, chayecha, but I swear, shediborcha chaviv alai. Moshe, your dibur is chaviv to me. Yoser min koil shemikulan leikora dibur elalim Moshe vayikra Moshe. What does it say in this medrash, Rabbi Yisai? In this medrash, it tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu, what was he lacking? He was lacking the tzchus to have given to the Mishkan. The other Nesiim gave. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells it, but Moshe Rabbeinu, what you have given me is worth more than what everybody has given. It's worth more than what the Nesiim has given. What did Moshe Rabbeinu give? He had agmas nefesh that he did not give. In the Medrash state, you know what Moshe Rabbeinu gave? Says the Medrash, Ani lo yavesi, lefish aisa nafsho shel Moshe aguma alav. Moshe Rabbeinu had agmas nefesh. The Medrash is teaching us that agmas nefesh is chaviv by the Heilige Bashefer. Agmas nefesh is worth a lot by the Rebbeinu Shalom. The rotzin to do avodas Hashem, that's what's worth by the Rebbeinu Shalom more than all the nedavis. When the Rebbeinu Shalom sees us, and he sees us in this matziv, the matziv, what's aguda, Rabbi Yisai? Aguda means a bundle that's supposed to be together, be yachad, learning Torah, be yachad, learning Torah, be chabura, learning Torah together, having the shir together. And the Rebbeinu Shalom sees that we will do anything to learn Torah together, and that the Rebbeinu Shalom sees our desire to be together. He sees the tzara, that we're unable to get together and see each other face to face and sit together in a beis medrash and learn Torah. But the desire to be together in a beis medrash, the desire to daven in a minyan when we can't daven in a minyan, that's chaviv ma'oid by the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's nafshay shel Moshe aguma alav. Our nefesh is agum. Our nefesh to be together, to daven in a minyan, to learn together, to be mechabura b'yachad be'aguda echas. That's chaviv ma'oid by the Rebbeinu Shalom in this time, Rabbi Yisai. It's known that the Ribnitzer Rebbe, Zeichat Tzadik L'Vracha, he was told over by one of the Gaboyim, the Heisbachers, that the Ribnitzer Rebbe, he used to every morning, when he was in the cold, in the Moscow, in the Russian freezing winters, he would go out every morning to be teufel. How do you teufel when it's freezing? The whole entire lake is frozen. So what do? So the Ribnitzer Rebbe would go, and he would bring with him an ice pick. And they would go together with the Heisbacher. They would go together to break the ice, so that the Ribnitzer could be teufel in the lake, in the river, whenever it was there. Every morning, the Gabbai said that the Ribnitzer would go, he would take his little ice pick and he would start hacking the ice. And he would hit the ice, keep on hacking and hacking. And the Ribnitzer, he didn't even make a dent, not a scratch. What was the Ribnitzer doing? Afterward, the Ribnitzer, when he wasn't Zeicha to obviously break the ice, he would just do what's called Gilgul Sheleg. just a bit to have some type of a form of mikvah taira. What was the Rebbe doing? The Rebbe was teaching us Yisrael Rabbi Yisrael, that Agmas Nefesh and the desire to do the Ratzon Hashem, the desire to learn Torah together, the desire to go to Arbeitz Midrash, and the desire to go to Minyan. That's Chaviv Ma'oid by the Rebbeinu Shalom. And if we're not zoiche to go, but we show the Rebbeinu Shalom our desire, that's Chaviv Ma'oid by the Heilig of HaShefer, that's worth the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what this Yarchei Kallah is. This shows the Rebbeinu Shalom, this is our desire. We want to be back together in the base medrash biyachad, not just over a camera, albeit the chshivas of the davar, but it's not the same. So what did we do? We did what it says in the pasuk in Yeshaya, where Perek Chavav, when it talks about the Milchama Gog Magog, Leich Ami Ba B'Chadarecha Uskod Dalasecha. And Rashi over here tells us, what does it mean? Leich Ami Ba B'Chadarecha. Shuvazu Heishiv the Navi told them, base knasiyos and bati midrashes, close the doors and go into the base medrash and the base knesses. But what does it mean in this time of the ikvis in the Mashiach? We're not zoiche to be able to go into the base knesses and the base medrash. So we're told that we have to make our houses into a base medrash, and we have to make our houses into a base knesses. So we go into our homes and we leich ami bo b'chadarecha, and we turned our homes into a Yarchei Kallah, into Mokaymis of Torah, into Mokaymis of Tefillah. The Heilige Chafetz Chaim. Somebody once asked the Chafetz Chaim, Rebbe, how do we know what they hold about us in Shemayim? How do I know what they hold about my davening in Shemayim? How do they know about my learning? How do I know what the Rebbeinu Shalom holds about me in Shemayim? And the Heilige Chafetz Chaim said, Himmel is as a spiegel. The Shemayim is like a mirror. In Shemayim, what is chashiv by you, so that it's mirrored in Shemayim. If a tefillah b'tzibur is important by you, then in Shemayim they can't wait for your tefillah. If in Shemayim your blood gemara, that's your life source, that's your bloodstream. So then in Shemayim they can't wait till you go to the base medrash to learn a black gemara. But the person that the davening is not so important by him. What's the difference of my davening? What's the difference of my learning, etc. So the big guy does it in Shemayim. That's how they feel about your davening and your learning also. Rabbi in Shemayim right now, they're looking at us and they're seeing us. What are they seeing, Rabbi Isai? And how do we know that they're seeing? I'm going to tell you, Rabbi Isai. In Shemayim, the Rebbeinu Shalom, he's also on Zoom. The Rebbeinu Shalom is with us. How do I know that the Rebbeinu Shalom is with us specifically in these times? Because there's pasuk in Shir Hashirim that we're all going to read on the Seder. Kol doidi neze ba midaling ala horim. Rashi says over here, Rashi says that the Geula was not supposed to come for 400 years. They were supposed to be in Mitzrayim. Rashi explains that was a time period. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was midaling ala horim. Rebbeinu Shalom, he jumped. He said, no, I can't wait 200 years for Klal Yisrael. And he was mekapet like bias, and he brought the Geula after 190 years. And but where? Where's the Daidi? Where's the Rebbeinu Shalom when he's running toward us to save us from tsaris and to save us from our matziv of shverkeit, of shibud? The Heilig of HaShefer is he's mashkiach min hachalonis. He's looking through the window. Rabbi said the Rebbeinu Shalom is looking at this. He's on Zoom right now, the Rebbeinu Shalom, and he's watching us in Shemayim, and he's having so much annoyance. He's meitzis min hacharokim, and he sees how chaviv by us the Heilig Torah is, and he sees that this is what I want. I want back. That's what I want. The lamed. I want that back. Klal Yisrael chazku be'am. The Rebbeinu Shalom is with us, and he tells us after Klal Yisrael they seem to be in a matzav where there's no hope. The Klal Yisrael are running away, and they're behind them is the nates. Rashi says there's this big dreadful bird that wants to kill them. So Klal Yisrael look inside. Maybe there's a hole. Maybe there's some type of a salvation, some type of a geula. So Rashi tells us over here. The pasuk says over here. What does Rebbeinu Shalom want? Behind us is the bird. In front of us, inside the hole, is the snake. And what do we do now? Is to go forward, there's a snake in front of us. To go behind us, there's the bird behind us. So the pasuk says, what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants is, Hareini es marecha shmi'ein es kailecha. I want to hear your tefillah. I want to hear your Torah. That's where you turn to when you're in a matziv of sorrow. Ki koilech orev u'marecha. The marech of you is nava. You are beautiful to me, Klal Yisrael. And that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom wants. And look at us, Rabbi Say. Look at Klal Yisrael in this matziv of tzara. This is, for the first time, we can understand what's pshat in the Chazal, Kadyas in Yisrael, the Oiskin, B'simchas HaTorah. Klal Yisrael are Oiskin, B'simchas HaTorah. And Kutchabricha Oimer, right now, the Rebbeinu Shalom was Meitzes Min HaCharokim. He's Mashkiach Aleinu, Min HaKsal and Yachar Kaisleinu. And he says to Talmal Yedilei, Chazu, Chazu, Bonai, Chavivai, the whole world has been tsar, and we're in tsar, and they're mishtakhin b'tzar v'lo'oin, and they forget about their pain and their suffering, and they're oiskin b'chet b'sadili. What we're doing right now, Rabbi Say, this is what brings the Geula, this is what brings the Klal Yisrael to have a Yeshua and save us from these dreadful times, from these dreadful tzaras. The Rebbeinu Shalom should see that b'schus, the Torah that we're learning and the desire that we have to go back to the Beis Medrash, the Beis Medrash that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants us to be in. That should be a schus for us, for our mishpachas, and for all of Klal Yisrael, that we should get out of this matziv, b'mheira, b'yameinu, amen. And what better way, Rabbi Say, to give pleasure to the Rebbeinu Shalom? What better way to give the Rebbeinu Shalom pleasure than by talking about his mitzvah yikar of Dalit Kaisis? I Rabbi Say, in the 1,705 Siman of the Shulchan Aruch, I don't know how many times it says, like it says in Tavayin Beis and Sikut Gimel, that afilu an oni amispanis min atstake, yimkor malbushai, a yilve, a yaskir atzmai, b'shvil yayin arba kaisis. You have to go and sell yourself out to go and get the Dalit Kaisis. I don't know how many times in Shulchan Aruch it says such a statement that a person has to go and do whatever he can to knock on doors, to hire himself out in order to get this mitzvah yikara. A very bold statement from the Shulchan Aruch. What's the message of the Dalit Kaisis before we go into the halachos of the Dalit Kaisis, Rabbi Say? The message is what our great Rebbe, Rabbeinu Agadol, Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, what he taught us. Shlomo Zalman Auerbach asked a question, such a beautiful question, Rabbi Say. Why is it that the Chazal were mechayiv Dalit Kaisis of Yayin? Why not 4 chocolates? Why Dalit Kaisis of Yayin? Why not 4 chocolate bars? No, that would also be shek. Or why not 4 maybe a little bit of a more hecha madrega? Why not 4 steaks? Or even more hecha madrega? So why is it that it's 4 kaises of wine? So Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach already taught us, Rabbeinu Agadol Rav Shlomo Zalman. Rav Shlomo Zalman, because there are many foods out there on both sides that you think, ooh, I really like that food. So you have 1 piece of chocolate and then another piece of chocolate. What happens once you enter the 4th piece and the 5th piece? Maybe for the Grace of Kiboyrim, maybe the 7th piece. But there comes a point where you don't want any more chocolate. And the more chocolate you add, it's like an ukshoy. Don't want any more chocolate. There's only one food, Dr. Gainish Shlomo Zalman, that the more of it you have in the beginning, but the more of it you have, the more and more and more that you want. And that is wine. A person has a cup of wine. What happens? No, 3rd cup of wine, 2nd cup, 3rd cup, 4th cup. And by the time he wants more and more and more and more. Zakt Gainish Shlomo Zalman, what are the Dalit Kaisis? They're connected to Avra the Shayis of Geula. What does it mean connected to Avra the Shayis of Geula? Zakt Gainish Shlomo Zalman. Because when the Geula comes, and when the Geula came in Mitzrayim, and the Geula will come, the matzah was of such that first there was one level of simcha. Simcha from the physical shibud, simcha from the ruchnistic shibud, that they got closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Rabbi Say, then the next shlav came, and the simcha was more, and they wanted more and more. And then the 3rd shlav, and then the 4th shlav, and then they got all the way that the Rebbeinu Shalom was lakachti. And we are now in a matzah of sorrow. But the Rebbeinu Shalom, when he takes us out of this matzah, we're going to have simcha, and then more simcha, and then more simcha, and then it's going to be mevatel the simcha from before, it's going to be so much simcha. And that's the Dalit Kaisis of Yayin, that's the Dalit Kaisis of Geula, that's the message that we need to hear in these times. Rabbi Say, I don't know, this is a Reb Schwab, Shraga in Parshas Boy, that he brings down what he heard from the Chafetz Chaim. Shraga in Parshas Boy, he heard from the Chafetz Chaim that what's the level of how much a person is supposed to believe that Mashiach is going to come today. No, I think my whole life I wasn't soicha to the appreciation of this in Shraga until this matzah that we're in right now. But Shraga, our Rebbe, Zeichet Tzadik L'Bracha, he heard from the Chafetz Chaim that the Chafetz Chaim said, in regular days, it has to be by a person, a good chance that Mashiach could come. It has to be a good chance that the Mashiach could come. The Rebbeinu Shalom lives in a world over here. He sees a world that gives him a lot of akmas nefesh. That's in a regular day of the year. But in Nisan, in the days of Nisan, in the days that I'm a sugal for Geula, it has to be by a person like a 50-50 chance, Rabbi Yisai. And that's the matzah that I think most of us feel right now. That we're in a matzah where we feel it's a 50-50 chance that the Mashiach can come. We feel it, Rabbi Yisai. And that's the message of the Dalit Kaisis of Geula. The Dalit Kaisis are a message that when that Geula comes, it's going to be better and better and better, Rabbi Yisai. So let's go into these halachas, and that'll give us a chizik. It'll give us a chizik in the Geula. It'll give us a chizik in what we have to look forward to. Amen. This mitzvah Yikar has many shilas to it, Rabbi Yisai. This mitzvah has many shilas. Shilas of grape juice, shilas of mixing, shilas of who, the what, who's chayiv in the Dalit cases, and the shilas of where, when, and all the different shilas. But let's go together, Kedarkenu, with the Talmidei Chachamim. Let's learn in the sugya. The Shulchan Aruch in Siman Tavayin Beis. The Shulchan Aruch tells us, and I think that'll be our first shilah. The Shulchan Aruch talks about this poor fellow. This poor fellow, he doesn't drink wine. Why? Because he hates wine. It damages him. It hurts him. So he has to push himself to drink wine. The mitzvah of the Avikaisis. He has to work very hard for this mitzvah, Rabbi Yisai. He has to work hard for this mitzvah. And he has to push himself. And Chazal tell us about one of them, Moiroyim, that he had a headache from Pesach all the way to Shavuos because he was Mekayim this mitzvah of the Dalit Kaisis. And the Shaila Nispakish, the question that we have is, what about us? How far do we have to go for the mitzvah of Dalit Kaisis? Do we have to be sick for it? Do we have to be miserable for it? It seems to be it's in the first in Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says that yes, you have to hurt yourself, you have to be mazik yourself. Certainly, if you don't like the taste, it seems like that's what it says in Shulchan Aruch. So it looks like it's atzmai, and even if you're a soina, you don't like the wine, you still have to go out of your way to go and drink the wine, and that's what it seems to be. But we have a shaila, which at first glance we don't seem to understand why this should be a new shaila, but it seems to be somewhat of a new shaila. Our shaila is, well, why should I have to suffer for the Dalit Kaisis? I'll simply have grape juice. And grape juice, nobody's going to suffer from grape juice. Okay, we'll see soon if there's a person that can't even have grape juice. But most of us were able to handle grape juice. So can I at least have grape juice? Why should I have wine if I don't like wine? Why should I have wine if I don't like the effects of wine? Elamai, you'll ask a question. No. No. I understand that the Shulchan Aruch, nicht wegen a microwave, heintige Scheiles, mit unsere microwaves, mit hot plates, mit alle Scheiles of Pesach. Because of nicht gehabt the microwave in the Zeit from Rav Ashi, in the Zeit from Shulchan Aruch. But the kasha, grape juice? Grape juice is a new thing? No. What's my grape juice for a new thing? That's something Tzadi Zayin already talks about grape juice. The Shulchan Aruch and Simon Reish Beis talks about grape juice. No. So why is it that this is a new question? So if that Amoira was willing to suffer for Dalit Kaisis, so we're no different than him, and we shouldn't be allowed to have grape juice. For whatever reason, that Amoira didn't have grape juice. It's the same reason why I'm not going to be allowed to have grape juice. But Rabbi said, I see that you're not a vinter if you have that kasha. Because Rashi HaKadosh, he was a vinter. He had Rashi had a whole winery. And Rashi, if you would have the knowledge of Yoseda the vinter, you would realize that question is like Chachma Mishal says. That's not a good question. You know why? Because the season of the harvesting of the grapes was 6 months ago, Rabbi said. So today, you fancy people, you have sulfates and you have refrigeration and you have all types of methodology of keeping grape juice for 6 months. But Rabbi said, in the times of Chazal and in the times of Shulchan Aruch, they didn't have such methodology. So the Mamela there, they did not have the option. Yes, grape juice in Nisan is a new shaila. Grape juice maybe in the time of Sukkot is not a shaila. But grape juice now, That's a new shaila, because now we're saying to have grape juice. So our shaila is a real shaila. If a person says, I would rather have grape juice, I suffer from wine, I can't take wine, I don't like the taste of wine, I don't like what it does to me. So is he allowed to have grape juice for the Dalit Kaisis? And there are many questions involved, and we'll go through as many as we can, Rabbi Yisrael. Maybe you all know different shailas in grape juice. For example, I think you know that there's a nidain from Rabbi Yashiv, the Melech of Kallah Yisrael, Zeichet Tzadik L'Vrocha, that Rabbi Yashiv was machmir, they say. He was against grape juice. But they say all types of strange statements, Rabbi Yisrael. Like they say, that Rabbi Yashiv held you can't make kiddush on grape juice. Rabbi Yisrael, I want to tell you what I once heard from Rabbi Yashiv. I once asked him, did he say a certain statement? And he said, no. He said, he didn't say that statement. So I had the sefer with me, and I was looking at the sefer that brought down that Rabbi Yashiv said something. So Rabbi Yashiv looked at me, and he looked at the sefer, and he put his hand on the sefer, and he said to me, I'm going to tell you a klal, and it's a grace klal, Rabbi said. Whatever you hear from me that sounds strange, I thought I didn't say. Whatever you hear from me that sounds good, sounds normal, maybe I said. So this Rabbi said, if Rabbi Yashiv would have said that you can't make kiddush on grape juice, so then that would be going into our klal that that's strange. And if Vada never said it, because doesn't the Gemara Mefureshis in Baba Basra on Da, Tzadi Zayin, the Gemara says in his fourth and Shulchan Aruch and Seven Reish Ayin Beis, Soichet Odam Eshkol Shalanov and Erev Shabbos, and you can make kiddush on it on Friday night. So that's in the Persian Gemara, that you're allowed to make kiddush on grape juice. And Rabbi Yashiv never could have said and never did say that you can't make kiddush on grape juice. What did Rabbi Yashiv say? Rabbi Yashiv said that today they do a process to our grape juice, which makes it that the grape juice cannot ferment. They either put in it sulfate, sulfur, all types of stuff, or they cook it up, or they do something to it, which makes it that it can't ferment. Once they make a process that your grape juice cannot ferment, so the Yashiv holds that the only reason why you make a barik guffin on grape juice is like it says in the Rishonim in Brachas Adaf Lamed Hey, on the base, because it has the potential to be misabach, even though it doesn't make you shikker, but potentially it could make you shikker. How? If it would ferment. What says Rabbi Yashiv? Let's say your grape juice was in a situation where they did something to it that it can't possibly make become fermented and can't possibly make you shikker. So then that grape juice said, Merin Rabbi Yashiv, thus is and that you can't make kiddush on it on Friday night. That's the shita of Rabbeinu Agabel Rabbi Yashiv. According to that, it would depend on what grape juice you have. It's true that most of the grape juices, they do have certain sulfurs and sulfates and sulfites and all types of zaken in them, and maybe cooking and whatever, that make it that they can't ferment. However, this, you'd have to run past your local Orthodox vinter and find out if your grape juice fell into that category. If it did, then you certainly couldn't use it for the Dalit Kaisis according to Rabbi Yashiv, because even on a Friday night, you wouldn't be able to use it. Now, interesting note, Rabbi Yashiv is somewhat l'shitasei. What do I mean that Rabbi Yashiv is somewhat l'shitasei? Rabbi Yashiv, when it comes to matzah, Rabbi Yashiv is a shita. Rabbi Yashiv shita is, can I have matzah for the mitzvah of matzah's mitzvah that has the gluten removed from it? The gluten is the koyach that gives your wheat the ability to be machmetz. Rabbi Yashiv holds that if your matzah can't have become chametz, now I know it is gluten-free, so therefore you can't be yotzei the mitzvah of matzah with that matzah. It's a little bit the same shita. A grape juice that can't ferment can't be called wine. A matzah that can't be machmetz can't be called a matzah. Okay, the truth is the whole gluten shaila is not so negaya, because the way they make it gluten-free matzah is by doing a process which anyways makes it chametz sticker. Ayin shav, they soak it. But Akupanim, it's something to think about. Who argues on this? Rabbi Yisai, Gaina Gadol Rabbeinu Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and Mincha Shlomo. In Simin Dalet argues on this stark. In Ikar Lumdis, why Rav Shlomo Zalman argues when you look there in the Tshuva, is because Shlomo Zalman said that the first second that they squeezed or squoze, the first second that they squeeze the grape and the juice comes out, before they put inside of it some sulfates or something that make it that it can't ferment, the second that they put inside of it, that's when it's a problem. But there was 1 minute where they squeezed the grapes, and at that moment, it did have the ability to ferment. So this was chal on it, the Shein Bayit B'di Agafen, says Rabbi Shlomo Zalman. Interesting. It comes out that according to Shlomo Zalman, it would be mashma. What if they did some type of a process to the grape? They did a process to the grape that they put the sulfur. I don't know if this is a possible process. I was told recently that there could be some potential mahalach of this. But let's say they would do something to the grape that from the point of where you go already and squeeze the grape, now it can never ferment. Then it could be even Rosh Shlomo Zalman would agree that that type of grape juice would be a problem. So where we holding, Rabbi say, can you use grape juice on a regular Friday night? If it's a type of grape juice that could ferment, which there are grape juice that could, then everyone would agree yes. If it's a type of a grape juice that can't ferment, so then that would be a machlekes of Rav Shlomo Zalman and Rav Elyashiv. Takes us back to the Seder. So that's the first reason why there would be an issue of using grape juice. If it's that type of grape juice, according to Rav Elyashiv, you wouldn't be able to use it. Another issue specifically about Leil HaSeder. What's a Leil HaSeder issue? Is what's brought down from Rabbeinu HaGadol. Rabbeinu HaGadol, Rav Moshe Feinstein, Nigris Moshe Zeichel Tzadik Livracha. That Rav Moshe Feinstein told us, it's brought, I think, in the Kol Doidi HaGadol. That Rav Moshe said that by Dalit Kosot specifically, you're not allowed to use grape juice because grape juice is not derech cheres. Now, the way it's brought down is that Rav Moshe seems to have said that derech cheres is a ikov, and a grape juice is not something that can be meshaker, can make you shikker, and therefore grape juice is not something that has the ability to give you that derech cheres, and therefore you can't be yotzei with grape juice at the Seder. That's what they bring from Rav Moshe. Now, the way it's written there is very, very difficult because the Mishnah Berurah and our Siman Tov Ayin Beis and the Ramah and Siman Tov Pei Gimel both say that if a person does not have wine for whatever reason for the Dalit Kosot, he could be yotzei with Chomer Medina. Now, Chomer Medina, Rabbi Isai, doesn't have to be alcoholic. And it seems to be that you're for sure yotzei, maybe not lechatchila, but you're for sure yotzei at least with grape juice or Chomer Medina, even though it doesn't have a derech cheres to it. So the way it's written down there is a little difficult. I would imagine what Rav Moshe said is that you're not yotzei lechatchila, because there's two aspects of the Dalit Kosot, like we see in the Gemara and Sachin on Daf Kuf Ches, which is number one, that Yidei Yayin is the Dalit Kosot, and there's Yidei Cheres. So it's true. Maybe not yotzei the aspect of Yidei Cheres, but I don't know if that's ma'akev in the mitzvah. But now we have at least a new reason why a person would want to stay away from grape juice at Leil HaSeder. I must tell you, it seems to be this is an old fight. The Yad HaLevi in Kupnan Hay agrees with Rav Moshe. Rav Shlomo Zalman could do an argument on Rav Moshe, and he said that which is derech cheres means it has to be a chashivas, and grape juice is a very chashiv drink. It costs more, and it's a chashiv drink. So it's an old fight, but I think it's even an older fight because in the Krei Kodesh, with Shri Pesach, the Versh Pesach, the great Rabbi Yerushalayim, in the 35th Siman, the Versh Pesach brings down the machlekes between the Pri Chadash and the Marash HaLevi. Marash HaLevi seemed to talk about a raisin wine. And he said, raisin wine? You can't be yotzei. It doesn't have simcha. It doesn't have derech cheres. The Pri Chadash in Daf Pei Gimel, he says, certainly you could be yotzei. It doesn't have a derech cheres. It doesn't make you simcha because it doesn't make you shikker. He says, well, it says shasan chai. A person in the Gemara Sachin brings down a person that drinks the wine without being moizig them, the hainu without derech cheres. So it says in the Gemara over there that you're yotzei b'diavad if you're shasan chai. So says the Pri Chadash, I think you're yotzei b'diavad, albeit that it's not derech cheres, but I think you're yotzei b'diavad. But Rabbi Isai over here might be better because shasan chai, the chepsa is a chepsa that definitely is not a derech cheres. It doesn't taste good, and the shoise, the gavra, also doesn't like the taste of this wine. But Mashen can grape juice, so maybe you'll say the chepsa doesn't make you shikker, but the gavra certainly has pleasure from it. So this seems to be an old machlekes, and halacha l'maisa, I guess, will agree that it's a maila to have a wine that can make you shikker. Rav Shlomo Zalman said it's not, as long as it's chashiv. But I'll be meisid midili epis something. Rabbi said, if you look in the Rishbam in Sachin, the Rishbam says, what's the idea of derech cheres? Because simchas yantiv is mechayiv that when you drink your wine, since this is how you're being Mekayim the mitzvah of Simchas Yontif, we know ain't Simcha Elo Devasa the Yayin. So we want it to be in a Simcha-dik way. So we want it to be a Yayin that can bring that Simcha, which is a Yayin that can bring the Shaker, that can make the Sheker. However, if I say interesting, who doesn't have the mitzvah of wine to make her happy? Oh, I gave it away. A woman. The mitzvah of Simchas Yontif for a woman is not to have wine. It's you're supposed to buy her nice things. My son told me that Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein said over, how are you going to Mekayim the mitzvah this year of Simchas Yontif? I guess Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein doesn't know that you can buy online still. But for those that can't, how are you going to be Mekayim this year, buying your wife something for Yontif? Because she doesn't have Simchas Yontif with wine and meat. Says Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein, Mali hey, Mali Dmeya. Give her a post-dated check, Rabbi Isaac. But upon him, you see that when it comes to Simchas Yayin, when it comes to Simcha, Derech Cheres is a kiyum of Simchas Yontif. But by side, that would mean that a woman for sure can have grape juice to be out to the Dalekaisis. Because Yedei Yayin Gatsa and Yedei Cheres, she has no din of Simchas Yontif through Yayin. Her din Simchas Yontif is another method. So do children. Lefi this, says the Gemara himself in Daf Kuf Tes, how do you be mismit the children? Not with wine. The Gemara says that children don't have enough from wine. So the Zay, they would yes be able to be yaitz to the Dalekaisis with grape juice. A woman anyway should probably be yaitz with grape juice because the Gemara in Ksubas and Daf Samachay says some pretty nasty things about a woman that drinks 1 cup of wine, 2 cups of wine, 3 cups of wine, fragnish, and shah. So therefore, certainly a woman that wants to have grape juice, she can have grape juice with the Seder. Now, I must tell you, halacha l'maisa, it's yadua that the Brisker Rav and the Chabiner and the Chazei Nish did have grape juice at the Seder. I must also tell you that that's not such a raya, because it could be when they were older and they couldn't have wine. And we're saying, Tishoya Yaitse B'di'evet, halacha l'maisa, there's no shaila that there's a maila to have a yayin that's mishaker. So, l'chayra, a person should, if he's able to, have some form of yayin. However, many people, when it comes to Leil Seder, they go and they try to go and find the yayin sheinim a bushel and the driest, most dreadful wine that they would never drink in their lives. They think Kallah marbelit sayer areizem mishubach. The Rambam, the Heilige Rambam HaRav, the Rambam in Perek Zayin Chometz and Matzah Halacha Tes. The Rambam says not like that. Rabbeinu Agadol, the Rambam says that you're supposed to choose the wine kadesh te shtia areva. Hakoy lefi hayayin lefi das hashreisa. You're supposed to choose a yayin that is pleasurable to you. If you're that guy that likes cream alaga, that's the one you're supposed to take for the Leil Seder, because that's the one that's going to be shtia areva. That's the one that's going to give you that hanoya, and that's a chelik of heseva. That's a chelik of the derech chelis of heseva. So, what to do? If you're a zakin or a chayla or a katan or a woman, certainly you can be saving on grape juice. If you're a regular healthy person and you don't want to have grape juice, so I'll tell you like this. But you also have a hard time with wine. So I'll tell you like this. You can mix. You can mix. If you, as long as it has the shame of the wine, it has a winey taste, certainly half grape juice and half wine, even a third wine, as long as it still has the winey taste, it doesn't get shine, and you can be yaitse. Now, it's interesting to know is that if a person is going to ask a shayla, we know that Shulchan Aruch B'Birin Siteh says that a person, when it comes to the Dalit Kaisis, he's supposed to try to drink not like on a regular Kais Shal Bracha, just a Revi'is. He's supposed to try to drink a Revi'is or a Roiv Kais or Kallah Kais. What's this Indian of Kallah Kais? So this brings us to the Brisker Rav. Now we know the Brisker Rav is Chayke, Machlekes Rambam, Taisvis, whether or not this din of Dalit Kaisis is a din like every other Kaishal Bracha, but just like in a Kaishal Bracha, you have to be Yaitse with the Kaishal Bracha. No difference, same rules. Shtia v'Revi'is, you could do Chamer Medina, says the Brisker Rav, like any Kaishal Bracha. Or no, maybe there's something miyuchad about the Dalit Kaisis, ayin in the Rambam, that the Kais is a Kaishal Bracha. It's not a Kaishal Bracha. It's a din Dalit Kaisis. Like you have to eat a matzah, you have to drink a cup. You have to drink a Dalit Kaisis. So Mela, explain them in fashion. Now therefore here, it's not with the regular rules maybe of just drinking a Roiv Revi'is or a Revi'is. There's a Mela to drink a Roiv Kais or the whole Kais. Because here it's not just a regular rule maybe of Kaishal Bracha, maybe you should drink the whole Kais. So there is such a Mela. So what happens? A Jew is going to come to me and says to me, listen, if I do your shtickle with taking half wine half grape juice, or even a third wine. So then I'll be able to drink, but I'll only be able to drink revius. I won't be able to finish my cup. So first of all, I'll tell him, no, you don't have to have big Gedalia Gumbas, Nagelwasser revius, the size of a Nagelwasser cup. You could be Saimach on the Chazanish, or even maybe less than that. No, 4 ounces. The most is 5 ounces. You see, it's really not that much when you start to measure it. So have that cup and you'll be able to. But he tells me, no. You have a choice. Either I have grape juice and then I drink the whole cup, or I have half wine and half grape juice, but I'm not drinking the whole cup. I'm only drinking a revius. I'm like that he should probably have the wine and the grape juice. Because according to Rav Moshe, it's a very serious b'diavad. Mashen came. The other thing is a naila. To drink the whole kais is a hitter. I'm the Ramban. Derech Agav, I remember a Maisa. It's a Maisa with the Brisker Rav. Once you're in the top of the Brisker Rav. It was when the Rav was running away. I think it was in the First World War. And the Rav was with his brother, Ramoshe Soloveitchik, is a friend of the Bracha. And they were Erev Pesach. They didn't have money for Dalit Kaisis for both brothers. They didn't know what to do. They could either buy Chamer Medina, and then altogether, both brothers, let's say in those days, I don't know, Chamer Medina was probably milk or something. It's a famous story with Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, somebody once knocked on the door of great guy Reb Chaim, and he said, Eva, could you be Yarchei with milk, Dalit Kaisis, even though you can have meat there? Even though it's the Seder and this stuff. So the Reb Chaim turned to the Rebbetzin and he said to the Rebbetzin, give him money. Because a Yid that's asking if you can have milk from Dalit Kaisis is obviously not having meat. So the Rebbe say, give him some money. But upon him, the Brisker Rav and his brother Moshe, they didn't have enough money to buy Dalit Kaisis of wine for both brothers. So they had a choice. Either they could buy Dalit Kaisis for one brother, or they can have milk, and enough milk for both brothers, and that they reach out to Dalit Kaisis and be Yarchei with Chamer Medina. So the story goes something like this. I think the story goes that Rav Moshe Soloveitchik said to the Brisker Rav, don't you have, it's like a whole shtickle Torah, the Brisker Rav al Rambam, that it's totally if it's kosher bracha, or if it's a din kais, to drink the kais. So he said like this, he said, look, if it's a din kosher bracha, so then one person could be moitzi somebody else in Dalit Kaisis. There's no din that you have to drink. It's not like tefillin that you have to put on tefillin, you have to put on matzah. It's a din that I can actually drink for you. It's a din of a kosher bracha. Side by side, if it's a kosher bracha, I can be might to you in a kosher bracha. That's one nafkamina. Another nafkamina, if it's kosher bracha, is that it's regular rules of kosher bracha. It doesn't have to be wine. It could be chamer medina. Kosher bracha. As I said, Mashenkem, what's the other side? The other side is no. It's kosher yayin. And it's a din mitzvah shebegufa. You have to drink the kais, and it can't be that somebody else drinks the kais. And of course, you can't use chamer medina. They said so. Mamela, when man of shach, we should only buy 4 kaises of wine. Why? Because if we're buying 4 kaises of wine and I'm being mitzvah you, so then man of shach. Maybe it's kosher bracha, and I'm mitzvah you anyways. Elamai, that it's not the din kosher bracha. So at least one of us should be Yarchei the din of kais, din shtia of kais. Mashenken, if we're going to buy 8 cups of milk, so then it's true that we'll be Yarchei on the side of kosher bracha, but we could have been Yarchei on that side anyways. So Mamarashach, we should only buy 4 cups of wine, and then one brother will be mighty the other one. Ramoshe Soloveitchik told him, and I'm the Bechor, so the Rebbe say, I'll get to drink the 4 cases of wine, and I'll be Yarchei you. I don't know what happened over there, but that's the story that they say over. Now, let me get weiter. An interesting idea, Rabbi say, when you're buying grape juice, at least from Eretz Yisrael, grape juices and wine from Eretz Yisrael, I don't know about in America, but Al Capone, the grape juices in Eretz Yisrael in America, and the wines in Eretz Yisrael, there's an interesting shiloh, which is nogay all grape juices and wine, is how much are you allowed to water it down? Which is also a big shiloh by the Seder. How much are you allowed to water it down? So the truth is that there's a Mishnah Berurah in Reich invades and Steve got into Zion, that the Mishnah Berurah has a very, very, I would say, a liberal shita on this. The Mishnah Berurah says that you're allowed to have 1 part wine to 6 parts, 1 part wine to 6 parts water, which is very, very watered down. Today, there aren't wines like that, Kimat Rabbi says the Mishnah Berurah, it's allowed so long as the people consider it to be wine. They still call it wine. There's actually a great guy named Chaim Leib, Mr. Tavis. And he, Taka, came to fight with the Chavetz Chaim on this. And he told the Chavetz Chaim that you're wrong. I have the story over here, actually. And he came to tell the Chavetz Chaim that you're wrong and that you need to have at least 50% wine, which is the sheet of the Prima Godim, actually. And he wrote a whole tshuva against the Chavetz Chaim. The Leisrash of Chavetz Chaim, this is brought down in the Chavetz Chaim's life in the Art Scroll book, in page 273, that the Chavetz Chaim, I'm reading from the Hebrew version, Leisrash of Chavetz Chaim bin Nasa be'atzmai staviska. Chaim Leib, he was, Chaim Shmulevitz was named after him. It was Nasa be'atzmai, it says he went all the way there to be Meshachneim, to show him that he's wrong, and that it's enough to have 1 part wine to 6 parts water. And Chaim Leib was only b'doik, if he disagreed, it has to be 50%. So the Chavetz Chaim told him, hey, you know, like all Yehudi, not every Jew is the Rabbah of Stavisk. Such a wealthy man that's Mishtaker, Baruch Hashem, 25 rubles, 20 rubles, not everybody can afford such wine. And the Chavetz Chaim was making on this type of a wine. The Maisa, I must tell you that this Chavetz Chaim might be a problem for people. The Chavetz Chaim was the big makel, Rabbi said, that he says 1 part wine is enough to 6 parts water. The Chavetz Chaim is a big makel here, Rabbi said, but he adds a word. It has to still be called wine by the people. Rabbi said they have something called yayin kal. It's not called yayin. It's called yayin kal. That means people do not consider it. You go to give this to a guy, he's going to say it's not wine. You can tell no, it's white. It's light wine. It's not wine. So, you know, white lie. It's not wine, Rabbi said. So I don't know. Make your own yayin kal, in my opinion. Take grape juice, which is 100%. Take wine, which is 100%, and make your own and mix it together. Like we spoke before, you'll probably save money also, Rabbi said. But that's number 1. Number 2 is, that's interesting, on the bottles in Eretz Yisrael, they all say, kosher le Beit Yosef. Who's Beit Yosef? So I'll tell you, I don't know what Beit Yosef is. Beit Yosef, is there any Beit Yosef that holds that you have to have 50% wine to the water? Not familiar. I once asked Eliashif, and he said, Einoi Muva. Einoi Muva. So I'm going to tell you what I think Pshat is in Beit Yosef. It's a Chiddush. Rav Avadja, Zechern Devache, has a tshuva. The Sefer Chazei Nevadja, over there in Chelik Aleph, I think it was in Sidon Vav. He has a tshuva over there, but he's very bothered that the B'datz was selling wine. This is going back 50, 60 years ago. Today you don't find these wines. But 50, 60 years ago, they were making wines that had 17% wine and 82% water. And he was very bothered because he held like those shitas, like the Prima Godim, like the Lavosh, that you have to have 50% wine at least. So he went and he spoke to the B'datz. He said it's not right, and especially for the Svardim. So the B'datz told him, well, you should know, and I'll read you the Lashon because it's hard to believe. But the B'datz told him, they said, listen, read the label. B'datz lekol kilos Ashkenazim. Ein achrayut Svardim aleinu. They don't have aleinu. They don't have the chrayis of the Svardim. And he was very upset about this, Rav Avadja. Oh, Rav Avadja was upset about this. And he started to talk on the radio, the original Zoom, Rabbi Isai. And he started telling people, don't buy it. So slowly, they had to change their mahalich. Brings a whole story over here about he was at a chuppah, and Rav Tzedakah was there, and they only had the wine that he held wasn't good, and they didn't make the bracha on that wine. So I don't know, maybe the pshat is that it's kosher, the shita Bet Yosef means which Bet Yosef? Bet Ovadia Yosef. Maybe it means it's kosher Ovadia Yosef because he's the one that made that big war that it has to be 50% wine, and that's in order to be Yarchei. I must tell you today, it's kimat, not negay, unless you're getting this yayin kal stuff, which is not called wine anyways. I don't know who it's good according to anybody, but all the wines that are called don't have this issue. But let me take one more nekuda on this aspect of Isai. There's a big joke in my opinion. There's a lot of grape juice bottles that say, kosher l'shitat Bet Yosef. Now, Isai, grape juice is a world war. You should know, if a grape juice doesn't say 100% natural grape juice, 100% TV grape juice, so the shita of Rav Shlomo Zalman in the Minch Shlomo in Lamed Dalet, Chav Dalet, Rav Shlomo Zalman holds that grape juice, if it would have 33% water, 100% it's shakal. Under 33% water, Rav Shlomo Zalman wasn't sure. I asked Rav Eliashib once, he said 1 teaspoon of water already? He's not sure if it's already a gof, and maybe it's already shackle. In Bnei Brak, it's a good trivia question. When in Bnei Brak are they more makel than in Yerushalayim? So this is one of the answers. It's said over from Abzarach Shapiro that he brought in the Chut Shani in the 85th parak in Chelik Dalit that the Chazanish said if you have 50% of wine, grape juice, it's enough as long as it has a taste of grape juice. Big kula and Bnei Brak decided on this kula. Halacha l'maisa, avadi should try to get a grape juice which is 100% natural according to the Doyle Yerushalayim. It's no good. But that's a murdik joke. It's a gemaldik leitzanis. If you see on a grape juice bottle the words kosher l'shitat beit Yosef, you think it's a big chumrah. It's a big kula. They're laughing at you, Rabbi Yisrael. What did they just say? It's kosher beit Yosef, and there's 51% grape juice in it, Rabbi Yisrael. We just said you need 100%. So say, stay away from that one. I don't know if you have to stay away from it, but don't go dafka and buy that one. Okay, so that's clapping the shayla of grape juice. Now go a little bit weiter. What color does our grape juice? Can I use white grape juice? Many people have the shayla. Once I'm buying grape juice, I might as well have the one I like. Can I have white grape juice? No. So there are 4 reasons brought down in the Paiskim, at least to my knowledge, in Tafayim Beis and Sikud Aleph, why you're supposed to have red wine for the Seder, Rabbi Yisrael. Yain Adai. Yushalmi says, because Al Teire Yain Kiyas Adai. That denotes a chashivas, explained the Paiskim. Wine that's red is choshev. There's Baman Tzadizayin and Baba Bas and Damat Beis. He says because it gives a person a taiva. That's how the Marshoy explains it in Kuvches and Pesachim. A person that has red wine, it gives him a taiva, which makes more of a shichris to the person. Therefore, you should have red, because it'll generate more of a shichris. So as HaRav says, the tam, which is known to most of us, which is that if you're going to have red, it reminds you of the dam, of the shibid, of the suffering, and the dam Mila, and the dam Pesach. And it's also not so known as that the Kavachayim brings down in Tafayim Beis, in Sivkot and Ein Ches, that Mizeh Ba Me Edoim. Edoim. It reminds us of the Geula who's coming over there from Edom. It's a reference to Mashiach, and it's a reference to the Geula. So therefore the Ramah says, if the white wine is better, you're allowed to have the white wine. But the Maisa, by us, no, I don't know if the white grape juice is better or worse, but let's see. The reason of the Orza Ruah applies, because it definitely reminds, if you have red, it'll remind you of the Shibit. The reason of Mizeh Bame Edoim, it applies also. So it seems to be there is a milah to have the red grape juice. But what if you like the white grape juice? I must add, there's a shitas from Ban that is brought by the Poiskin that holds that you're not Yarchei at all with Kiddush of something white, because Klape the Sugin, Baba Basra, it's not Roy Lanasech Agabe Mizbeach, okay? On Seder night, we try to be machmir, and certainly we want to get those shitas. If a person would have white wine, white grape juice, so then anyways, the eitzah would be, is you pour in first the wine that you're going to add to your grape juice, and then after put the white in, and then you're coloring it. Even though Rosh Shlomo Zalman was a little bit snagate to this, he held a little bit, it's not going to work, because it has to be naturally red. But Rabbi said, if you have wine and you add water, so then that for sure is okay, because it's meziga. So here, it can't be worse than meziga. So if I'm adding white grape juice to red wine, so then it can't be worse. Adapke said put the red wine in first because of the chumr of tzviyah ba'oichlin. Again, Mishlei Nizam was machmer because he said even though if we're make over tzviyah ba'oichlin normally, but that's in a regular time, but here you have a big mila, a big benefit. It's a big chiddush when you learn the sugya over there. Shevet Alevi and Chelik Yud and Simin and Vav is makel to do it even at the seder if need be, to have the white wine into the white grape juice into the wine. Now, if someone is a chayla and he can't even have grape juice, any type of grape juice, so can he be Saimach on Chamer Medina? We saw yes. What's considered Chamer Medina? So Chamer Medina is always a big fight, but in such a delicate situation, certainly natural juices, orange juices, for example, or certainly a natural orange juice or a natural grapefruit juice with a daima, that could be Saimach if the person's in a bind. In a regular year, we might tell him be Yarchei with somebody else, but Tzia Laida, unfortunately, it looks like there'll be many people that'll be alone for the Seder. If it's just him and his wife, and both of them can't have grape juice and can't have wine, so then they would have to be Saimach on Chamer Medina, on some type of orange juice with a daima. Just to be Messiah with a few halachas, Rabbi Yisrael Klapp and the Dalit Kais, it's a different minhagim. Some people don't have a minhag that they use a silver becher for the Dalit Kais. That's my minhag. It's the minhag of Hungarians, I think. No, I don't know. Rabbi Hoffman, the grandson is over here. What's the minhag over here? What's the minhag? What? Silver becher by us, by Rabbi Hoffman and by us. That's the minhag. No, but Al Kapanim in Satmar and in Skver, The minhag is to use a golden becher. The minhag is to have a golden becher for the Seder. Kalim shainim, like we find in Megillas Esther. Okay, lav kol adam zeichel likach. I was told that there are people that have the minhag, I think the Yaivitz, Chacham Tzvi, they have the minhag to use a glass becher so that you can see the wine. It's very interesting that a glass becher, I saw a sefer that someone so kindly bought me for my son's bar mitzvah. Rav Chaim Kanievsky has a sefer called Siach something over there. They asked Rav Chaim what he uses. So Rav Chaim says what he uses a glass becher so they can see the wine, and he puts it in a silver becher. So they asked Rav Chaim, why doesn't he do that the whole year when he makes a kiddush or whatnot? HaRav, there's a mila always, the Shulchan Aruch says in Kufay Gimel, to see your wine. There's a mila of seeing the Kosher Braga, not to be Mesiach Das. So Chaim Kanievsky said, yeah, nechanami, but I don't move from minig ovis. And that's the side. Whatever is your minig, if it's silver, if it's glass, if it's gold, that's your minig. That's number one. Number two, is there a mo here in Simon Tafayim Beis Tzikot Tezvav? He brings down that you shouldn't drink it out of a very small opening. That means don't use a straw for the Dalet Kaisis, Rabbi Isai, because you want it to be a continuous flow. You're supposed to try and gulp the Dalet Kaisis at least as much as you can, at least a roiv revius. You can eat a revius in one gulp if you can. Shtifa v'adacha, you're supposed to wash the kais anytime you have a kosher bracha. But certainly here you're supposed to do shtifa v'adacha. The Aruch HaShulchan says, al pi kabbalah, you're always supposed to do shtifa v'adacha, even if it's clean. You're supposed to wash the inside, the outside. The minhag is not to wash the kais by the second kais, but by the third kais, you for sure should wash the kais. It has all types of, even if you're not makbid on gebrachs, but it has all types of matzah crumbs and everything that's floating around there, and therefore you should wash the kais out for the third kais. The minhag of the balabayis. The balabayis does not pour for himself. The Aruch HaShulchan says that today we're not makbid on this minhag. Interesting Aruch HaShulchan. He says we're not so makbid on this minhag, and what? You're such a balgaiva. Why you should pour for you? Interesting. It sounds like from the Aruch HaShulchan that the only person they were pouring from was the balabayis. Because otherwise, what's the balgaiva? I'm pouring for you, you're pouring for me, I'm just not pouring myself. It sounds like the Aruch HaShulchan knew of a minhag that the only one that they pour for is the balabayis. Many people have a minhag which is based on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. The Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is mashma that no, everybody pours for someone else, but nobody pours his own. Go look in the Kitzur. It sounds like that a little bit. The Maisa, I think that's the minhag. I think with Moshe had such a minhag, and everybody should keep their minhag. But one thing important, a father doesn't pour for a son, because that's the Gemara in Kedushin. Like Chatzav Inish, Shave, his father, a shliach, even for a mitzvah to be a Gadish Isha. Kallah this, which is just like a hitter or something. So certainly the father doesn't pour for the son should pour for the father, and we'll discuss this on Seder night. If he's like this year, to be with a parent. If a person, for whatever reason, he's a chayla, he's not able to eat, let's say, between the second and third kais matzahs, he can't eat because he has a problem, he doesn't eat, he's a chayla, he has to make some type of a hefsek in order that he shouldn't eat the kaisis, to drink the kaisis in one shwung. He has to make a steak in between the kaisis. Very important to know. A person should have in zin, he should have in das, that at the first kais, have in zin that you might want to drink after. First of all, you have in das that you might want to drink a cup of wine again. You know why? Because you might forget to save up. That's another reason. Another thing is you might want to drink a cup of water. Is it so pashut you're allowed to drink a cup of water? So the Mishnah Berurah holds after the first kais, you're allowed to drink a cup of water. If you're thirsty, certainly until you pour the second kais. And even once you pour the second kais, there are places that are makel b'diavad that a person can take a cup of drink or something if he needs one during the Seder. Some Bedavka did it because they were afraid of the bracha achreina shayla. Where's my bracha achreina from the kais vishen? So some Bedavka took little sips of water. Now the gabe, the holding the kais, all totally in minhagim, but do the other people at the Seder, let's say the balabas, he's making the kiddush, and the other people are not making the kiddush, but they're being right to the kiddush. It's very interesting. But Shlomo Zalman and Rav Moshe said they should be dafka hold the kais, the other people that are being yotzei with the kiddush of the balabayis, to remind them that it's not like a regular kosher bracha. It's not like a regular kosher bracha, Rabbi Isai. I just have to take a sip. It's a reminder that it's a real emistika kais shtia, and that kais shtia is a reminder, if he's holding it, that he's supposed to he's supposed to drink the entire kais. That's kind of in a nutshell, Rabbi Isai. The basics of the Dalet Kaisis I want to be Messiah with one word, Rabbi Isai. Something we need to hear in these times. In these times when Klal Yisrael are getting together and Klal Yisrael are tsar, but Klal Yisrael are in tsar and they're mishtachim mitzar of the land, and they're forgetting about their tsar, and that they're isaac in the chedvasa, and they're being isaac in the chedva, and the simcha of the Rebbeinu Shalom, and the simcha of Torah. Rabbi Isai, there's a word from the Heilige Radomske Rebbe. What did the Radomske say? So much chizik it will give us, Rabbi Isai. The Radomske asked the Shaila on the Megillah. He asked the question, when Esther Amalka was geyser the tiniest on Klal Yisrael, it came out that dreadful Zardin from that Rasha, Haman HaRasha, and that Klal Yisrael are going to be destroyed. When are they going to be destroyed? In 11 months from now, in many months from now, in other 11 months down the road. And Esther heard this terrible Besaira, and she was geyser a tiniest in Klal Yisrael for 3 days. There's a Shaila in the Poskim, in the Rishonim, when exactly was the tiniest. But according to all the Rishonim, certainly on Seder night there was a tiniest. And the Shaila is obvious. Rabbi Isai, they had 11 months until the Gzeira. Rabbi Isai, why now to make the tiniest? Why now to make the tiniest? I have an idea. Have the Seder night, tell everyone, do the Seder with tremendous Hidurim and Matzah and Dalit Kaisis and Marer and everything and Fakert. Have a Yontif, and then afterwards it's already in a Sphira. No, then you'll have Tanesim. Tanesim, there's plenty of time. Why now did they have to do such a bold psak to uproot the mitzvah of Matzah and to not have the Dalit Kaisis? What the Rebbeinu Shalom Desire says, the Rebbeinu Shalom waits the whole year for the Seder. That great nachas. So we have time. We'll make the fast after Yontif. Why dafka now? Rabbi said they didn't have the mitzvah of matzah. It was the first time in the history of Klal Yisrael ever since they left Mitzrayim that there was, and afterward, it was the only time in the history of Klal Yisrael. Rabbi said in Auschwitz they had Sidorim. It was the only time in the history of Klal Yisrael that there was no matzah, there was no Dalit Kaisis, there was no Seder. So why couldn't they wait? Asked the Radomska. Zok the Radomska Rebbe, Moira Dik in the Welt, Rabbi said. He said, Moira Dik in the Welt. The Radomska said, Mordechai Esther, they were saying to the Rebbeinu Shalom, this is what the world will look like without Klal Yisrael. There'll be no Seder. That which you wait for the whole year. That great Hana, that great Nachas Ruach that the Rebbeinu Shalom waits for the whole year. The Meichel de Musa, the Matzah which gives Amunah, the Dalit Kaisis. And that year there was no Dalit Kaisis. Rebbeinu Shalom, if you get rid of Klal Yisrael, so then this is what the world will look like without Klal Yisrael. There'll be no Seder. Zok the Radomska with them, they nodded the Shnas HaMelech. The Rebbeinu Shalom saw that there was no Seder. And we awoke the Rebbeinu Shalom. And with that came the Geula. Rabbi say, we're all B'tzar. We're all B'tzar. Klal Yisrael is Shari B'tzar. Am Hashem, Chizku, B'nitzchazka. Klal Yisrael is Shari B'tzar, Rabbi say. But we're showing the Rebbeinu Shalom. This is what it looks like when we get Guda. We can't bundle together. We have to sit behind a computer screen. We have to sit together and try. We have to sit together and try to learn. We can't daven together. We can't have our sit-down with mishpachah. We can't be together. Rebbeinu Shalom is going to see this. And that Rebbeinu Shalom is going to see this is what the world looks like when Klal Yisrael is B'tzar. And then the Rebbeinu Shalom, they'll bring the Geula. And halavai, at shine the final Geula. B'meira, b'yameinu, amen.